Is the Bethlehem nativity scene anti-Semitic? Bethlehem is currently part of the Palestinian West Bank and over 2,000 years ago was the site of the birth of Jesus, the event celebrated with Christmas. This year's nativity scene from the Evangelical Lutheran Christmas Church in Bethlehem has been going around social media and is a powerful cry for the thousands of children who have died in Gaza this fall and who continue to suffer under siege in the war between Israel and Hamas. This nativity scene does not only evoke deep mourning and chaos, but also the presence and salvation of Jesus Christ in the midst of death and injustice, really the very reason Christians celebrate Christmas. But alongside the empathy and introspection that this nativity scene rightfully provokes, there are significant historical reasons to consider this scene with caution. The image perhaps unintentionally echoes centuries-old anti-Semitic charges against the Jews for the sin of deicide and accusations of Jewish sacrifice of Christian blood. First, the charge of deicide, meaning the murder of God. This belief is in part an interpretation of the account of Jesus' execution given in Matthew 27, verse 25, when the Jewish crowd demands that the Roman governor Pilate crucify Jesus, insisting, quote, "May his blood be on us and on our children." And Pilate washes his hands of his guilt. Accusations of deicide endured despite the fact that Jesus and his followers were also Jews, and that all the Gospels, including Matthew, record Jesus' crucifixion at the hands of the Roman government. Furthermore, Jesus himself claimed his death was something he underwent willingly, such as John 10:18, "No one takes it from me, I give my own life freely." Regardless of its theological validity or really invalidity, the belief that Jews are guilty for the death of Christ supported centuries of violence, expulsion, and discrimination of Jewish communities throughout the Christian world. The imagery of the Christ in the rubble could arguably echo misconceived accusations about Jews killing God. The baby Jesus in rubble could also evoke the blood libel, a false charge against Jews that they kill Christian children to use their blood for ritual purposes. Here's a 15th century depiction of one of the most infamous blood libel cases, Simon of Trent. There is absolutely no historical evidence supporting such a claim, and in fact the opposite is the case, since Jews are prohibited from consuming any blood, let alone from murder. And to our 21st century sensibilities, this accusation sounds outlandish, but it animated oppression of Jews from the medieval period to as late as the early 20th century. I have receipts. For instance, a 1903 proclamation in a Russian newspaper called on true Christians in Kishinev in the Russian Empire to massacre the Jews in their midst in honor of Easter. This paper emphasized that Jesus was, quote, put to death by the Jews, and that every year they shed innocent blood of Christians. They shed it and use it in their religious rites. The proclamation insists that Jews are miserable, bloodthirsty men who should have been driven out of our country long ago, and that they pose a political threat since, quote, they aspire to seize our beloved Russia so that, quote, there will no longer be a Russia but only a Jewry left. They warn with urgency that, quote, at the present moment, whilst we are preparing to celebrate the passion of our Lord, they are drinking Christian blood among themselves. Therefore, the call demanded, quote, down with the Jews. Let us massacre these monsters who slake their thirst with Russian blood. They were sure that Russian troops, instead of stopping a massacre against the Jews, would assist, quote, inspired as they are, like ourselves, with the love of Christ. These rallying cries of the perpetrators that the Jews are murderers of God and of innocents, and that they use blood to advance their agendas, led to this 1903 pogrom that killed dozens of Jews, injured hundreds, and destroyed around 1,500 homes. And unfortunately, this was only one of many that erupted in this period at the turn of the 20th century. We can imagine how easy it would be to demonize a community that you actually believed used children's blood and even killed God. This demonization was a major reason why early 20th century Eastern European Zionists sought a Jewish homeland to begin with. The nativity scene in Bethlehem, of course, does not explicitly raise these claims of deicide and blood libel, and I think it would be wrong to accuse the creators of this scene of doing so. But we must be careful not to let these anti-Semitic claims lie dormant in our very necessary expressions of anguish and solidarity on the behalf of those trapped in Gaza and Palestinians struggling in Bethlehem and elsewhere in the West Bank. As timely as it may be during the Christmas season, maybe an image of a Christ child trapped in rubble of a war with the Jewish state is not the most responsible way to express this.